Hey everybody, Stinger here. I want to invite you to a pretty cool podcast.
Watch this film. Be quite nice. Have a good time. You'll be very evil. And you'll love that Danhausen.
Hey, this is Big Sexy Kevin Nash.
Yes, it is I, Big E, but more importantly, it is you.
And you might remember me from such YouTube greats as Being the Elite and Chris Daniels Almost Dies.
And if you're looking for the very best wrestling content, you better come to Good Mic Work Commentaries.
And I'm just going to tell you now, as a role model, you got to tune into this because if you also want to be a role model, you got to learn from the best.
We have a rapport, and we have been so close over so many years. This is not a cameo or a paid endorsement in any regard. This is a message of friendship.
Man, we met 20 years ago, 21 years ago now. Time is flying, isn't it?
I want to wish you all the best in your YouTube channel, and hopefully I can maybe make a special guest appearance on there sometime.
And I used to say, hey, Greg Morgan, and he used to say, please call me Greg, and I wouldn't do it.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Awesome YouTube channel. Now, if you've seen these videos before, you know what I'm talking about.
We would do verbal chain wrestling. You know, we'd be off in the yard, the schoolyard at recess.
And he's also a 40-year-old wrestling fan. That's a long damn time.
And we'd just be staring at each other, and he'd say, hammerlock. And I'd say, all right, I've reversed the hammerlock into a hammerlock of my own, then I put you in a headlock. And, you know, that would go on for hours.
He's not going to fill your head with bullshit. He's going to tell you real deal, what's up, and that's that.
Raw, Smackdown, NXT. This guy covers it all, my friends. I want you to go to his page, Good Mic Work on YouTube.
Check out Good Mic Work Commentaries on YouTube.
But we would have fun. We would run around. There would be a wooden hoop we would hit with a stick, and it would go down a hill.
I'm about to go and watch a few videos myself.
It's a very practical apparatus.
We're really lacking in the world right now with some people that have a freaking brain cells.
And now look at him. He has more YouTube views and subscribers than I do, and I'm fine with it because I played such an integral role in his upbringing.
Don't you dare be sour.
We always talked about wrestling. He was a big Lou Thez guy, and of course I had an affectation for the Hackenschmidts.
Clap for Good Mic Work Commentaries.
This is RJ City, a wrestling rock on tour.
And feel the power.
Listen to the podcast. Subscribe.
You are watching Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Just want to encourage all you guys to check out Good Mic Work Commentaries.
And if you don't, we're going to have a problem.
Do it!
Do it.
Do it now!
Thanks a lot for the encomium and the nice words about my father's Hall of Fame induction.
Hope our paths cross again sometime down the road. Would love to shake your hand again, and good luck on this podcast.
And you don't just watch it one time. You can rewatch every single one of them.
And now, Good Mic Work Commentaries and Greg Morgan presents the Winged Eagle Podcast.
Happy Hell in the Cell weekend. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another edition of the Winged Eagle Podcast for June 19th, 2021. This is going to be a really fun episode because we've got Hell in the Cell coming up tomorrow, and we got our Hell in the Cell main event yesterday. That's pretty crazy. We're going to get into Smackdown from last night, the Roman Reigns and Rey Mysterio title match that took place inside the Hell in the Cell in the main event last night, and some major changes to tomorrow's Hell in the Cell card. We're also going to briefly touch on Dynamite from last night as well, because those shows were back-to-back again, and we're going to predict fully what we have for tomorrow's Hell in the Cell pay-per-view, a 6-match card with a couple of changes and a new match that is now inside the cell. And we're going to wrap up today's podcast with a long review of Thursday's Rise and Fall of Chyna documentary that aired on the Vice channel. 2 hours long, was pretty crazy, and there was a lot in there that I wasn't even aware of. and a really good overall look at Chyna's very, very, very tragic life. So I wanted to give a review of that in this episode as well, since the Saturday podcasts are kind of changing up a little bit, and I'm trying to spread out some of the topics and news and stuff that we talk about throughout the week. I think you're going to start seeing me a lot more on Thursday afternoons now, and Saturday podcasts are going to be limited to pay-per-view predictions, Smackdown review, anything else that we might not touch on in midweek. We'll finish that up on Saturdays because I think that's going to be the best way going forward for this summer. I'm in the restaurant business. My job is very busy in the summer, so we'll spend this summer kind of tweaking some things and getting the schedule down pat. That way, when we hit the fall, you guys will start knowing when to expect me. But the plan here is to be up here a minimum of 3 times a week, and Sundays and Mondays are pretty much a guarantee every week. The other days are a little bit up in the air. We're going to do Thursdays, we're going to do Saturdays, we're going to do both, and sometimes we're either going to do one or the other. So please do me a big favor and subscribe to this channel if you have not yet already, and make sure you tap that notifications bell so you can be notified whenever I'm coming up here to do live streams, because I try to be pretty consistent on this channel, and I think we will still continue to be mostly consistent, but things do change up from time to time, and the channel is undergoing some changes right now, which you guys have probably noticed a couple of things here and there. So we're working on some stuff here this summer to try to, just keep the channel fresh and shit like that. So just wanted to open up with that to let you guys know the future of these podcasts on Saturdays and whatnot. We will also be here tomorrow, immediately following Hell in the Cell, for a full show review. It's going to be a good time. Tomorrow is Father's Day. Happy early Father's Day to all you dads in the chat. But it's also a very busy day for me, because I'm going to have to be at work all day up until Hell in the Cell. So I'm going to haul ass home tomorrow, get here in time to watch the pay-per-view, and we'll be up as soon as it's over for a full review. And I'm pissed at WWE because earlier in the week, I already made my overlays and shit with Rey Mysterio and Roman Reigns all over them. So I got to work on that tonight. But we'll be up here tomorrow to review that. Should be fun. In terms of this episode, I didn't really get a chance to watch all of Dynamite last night. Just been really busy. It's a busy work weekend for me as well, but I did see a couple of things. We'll just briefly touch on Dynamite, then we'll review last night's Smackdown, because even though it was a go-home show, significant shit happened, like a title match, like a new Hell in the Cell match, like a new Hell in the Cell pay-per-view match. Lots of stuff went down last night, so we'll touch on that. Then we will predict the entire Hell in the Cell card, and then we'll wrap things up with my review of Thursday's Chyna documentary on Vice. First and foremost, though, we're going to say hi to everybody in the chat, shout out the patrons, and then we're going to get going. We're also going to speculate on Summerslam a little bit, because there's more news there. But let me make sure I can be heard. Okay, I can be seen and heard. We should be good to go. Let me cruise up here. Mixed Partial Farts, good to see you. Charlie is here. Nate, David Brown, welcome back. Congrats on your second vaccine. Good job, and props to you for doing your part. Nate, Mikey, Lou, Michael Cuomo in the house. Mohammed, Beetle, Jet, did I get you? Sonic Plays is here. Ernie Garcia, always good to hear from you, man. Here's George Morris. Let's see what George has to say today. Thank you for the $5, brother. Greg, how are you doing? Chyna documentary 0 out of 10. Jimmy, Bobby, and Allie and Daniel's mom in Cobra Kai Season 4, a couple of episodes. Jimmy, Bobby, Allie, and Daniel's mom. Okay, thanks. Allie's going to come back for Season 4. Daniel's mom, I can see, because she's appeared already. Jimmy and some of the Cobra Kai guys did too already, so that's cool. They're going to be making a return. Of course, Tommy passed away on the show and in real life. And they might be bringing Dutch back. I'd like to see him make a return as well. But I'm ready for Season 4. I think it's going to debut in late Q4. And as a matter of fact, the All Valley Karate Tournament in the movie was December 19th. I think that might be a good date for the release of Season 4. But I kind of hope it comes out earlier than that. We've got How Wheezy chiming in. Good to see you, man. Awesome new profile pic, by the way. Glad I got a mod in here, and thanks for the $2. Greg, having a bad day. Glad that you're here, man. Well, we're all here for you, How Wheezy. Go show How Wheezy some love. You can find him on Twitty. You can find him on Twitter as well. Good dude, one of our most trusted and loyal listeners in here. Hope you're doing better, man, and good luck. Hopefully this Hell in the Cell weekend will cheer you up. And Nikita is in the house as well, and Victor. Right on, guys. We'll be getting into everything here in just a minute. Smash that thumbs up button if you don't mind. And I'm going to shout out the patrons. Appreciate all the current subscribers on the Patreon page. We've got JJ Legg, Darren Piper, Nikita, Chris Miner, Super Fluffy Toaster, Deshaun Robinson, Jay Smoove, Martin Can, Alex Dredge, Apron Bump Podcast, Dre Leggett, Alan Carter, Brandon Yelverton, Michael Tong, Nick Musser, Jimmy Anderson, K-Dogs Kennel, Ryan Y., Devlin Husband, John Redifer, Claudio Clavedetzer, Daniel Rodriguez, Barry MK, Josiah Blevins, Mr. Steve, Scott Moss, John Riffle, Michael Cuomo, Naveed, Keith Salyers, and Blake Moran. As always, dudes, appreciate all your support, your years, some of you, of support on the Patreon page. Link is in the description if you'd like to support the channel. You can do that down there, and all super chats will be answered. We've got SummerSlam coming up in a couple of months. It's going to be on August 21st, of course, the Saturday SummerSlam in Las Vegas at Allegiant Stadium. Tickets went on sale yesterday, and Good Mike Work got his seats. They are not too shabby. I'm up on the first level, not the floor, but one up from that, and really, really close to the aisleway, and the hard cam should be facing me. Now, the seating chart looks like about 40%, 30 to 40%, maybe even more, of the stadium has been tarped off. Apparently, they're expecting around 40 to 45,000 for this already. I think they've sold 36,000 tickets. Like, they had a huge ticket sale success yesterday, so a lot of tickets have been sold. Looks like they should fill this thing to capacity, not the capacity of the stadium, but the capacity of what WWE is expecting, and it should be a cool show. As a matter of fact, if I can, I did post a screenshot on Twitter of where my seats were, and if it will let me pop this onto the screen here. Nope, it won't. I got to change the file for it to be able to get in here. But anyway, go subscribe or follow me on Twitter at GoodMikeWork. You'll see where my seats are. They're pretty damn close, and it's awesome. Got my hotel right across the street from the stadium, so we are ready to rock and roll for SummerSlam weekend. Still not sure exactly what I'm going to be doing yet, but we will set up some kind of a meet and greet somewhere for those who are interested. I'm also going to talk to a couple of colleagues on YouTube, see if anybody's doing anything fun, and we're going to try to work something out maybe Friday night before SummerSlam, or even maybe Saturday afternoon prior to the event. But I think the event itself is going to be pretty streamlined, because apparently WWE does want to get the show over before the Manny Pacquiao fight. So it's not going to be like a 7-hour show or anything like that. They're probably going to wrap things up, by 11 p.m., 10 p.m., something like that on the East Coast, which will be, I guess, earlier here. So that's probably going to be the plan for SummerSlam. I'm excited to be there, just to get out again and be out into the world and be amongst fans and meet some of you. Should be a blast. So stay tuned. We'll be talking a little bit more about what the hell I'm going to do at SummerSlam and how it's going to be possible to meet some of you for those who are going. And if you are going, looks like it's going to be fun, and they're going to be stacking the card pretty nicely, and we might be setting the table for that tomorrow night at Hell in the Cell with some of the outcomes of these matches to keep an eye on. So anyway, SummerSlam is going to be fun. Just wanted to mention that it's happening, and you can probably expect to see me at WrestleMania next year in Dallas as well. So if you miss me this time, maybe you can catch me the time after that. Anyway, like I said, let me just shout out the very generous 10 drop from Nikita. Appreciate that super chat, my friend. Super envious of you guys being able to return to live events. Energy must be incredible. It's still more enjoyable to watch NBA and WWE this way. Cheers from Germany, where soccer is a thing. Meh. I don't dislike soccer, but I don't watch really a whole lot of it either. It is really good to see the fans back here for sporting events like hockey and basketball especially. I was so disinterested last year in sports. I didn't care about anything. Even the Lakers, winning the championship, which I would think under normal circumstances would be pretty significant due to Kobe Bryant dying and all of that. Without the fans and that stuff, I just didn't, had no interest in just watching empty arena wrestling and sports. So to see the fans back now, some of the NBA playoff games this year has just had an incredible fan energy. We saw what the fans did at Double or Nothing. WrestleMania, of course, despite the weather, was a huge success in terms of, fan involvement, and I think SummerSlam is going to be the same. And it's just nice, like I said, knock on wood, until we get COVID the sequel or COVID Part 2 or something else happens and we all have to shut down for another 2 fucking years. But at least for right now, it's nice to see people back out. More and more people are around in the grocery stores now with no masks. My restaurant is balls to the wall. Nobody's doing masks or nothing. And, even though it's freaky, it's good to see. And the same goes for, wrestling events. So excited for SummerSlam, just to get out and walk the streets and go into places and have a beer and, talk to people and that sort of thing. It's just nice. It's just a nice feeling to have all of that back. And I think SummerSlam's going to be, I think it's going to be better than WrestleMania because it was 2 nights and, the crowd was still kind of somewhat socially distanced. They had a lot of cardboard cutouts, shit like that. So even though fans were back, it isn't like it is now where vaccines have been pretty widely distributed. And now you can kind of just go all out. So I just think it's going to have a much better vibe. Of course, you're not going to have to worry about any rain or anything like that this time around for SummerSlam. And it should be an awesome show. So I am really, really looking forward to going. It's about a 5-hour drive from San Diego from where I am, so we're not even flying. We're just going to hop in the whip and just drive up right there to Vegas, right to the Luxor Hotel is where I'm going to stay across the street from the stadium. It's going to be a blast. But anyway, like I was saying, I did not get a chance to watch all of Dynamite last night. I only caught a couple of key points that I just wanted to mention. We'll talk about the rest later on this week because AEW, unfortunately, with everything else going on, the Chyna documentary that I wanted to watch and talk about and be prepared for today, just didn't have time for Dynamite. And I worked all night last night, but I did get a chance to see the Jake Hager and Wardlow MMA-style cage fight that they had last night. This thing was set up like a real MMA fight. For a minute there, I thought this was going to be a legit brawl for all. You had Aubrey Edwards playing the role of the MMA referee, complete with the black outfit and the gloves and everything. And it was such a weird combination of being really awesome and really terrible all at the same time. And I just honestly, I don't think I'm a fan of pro wrestlers attempting to work this style, especially if, because you can tell they're working, you know what I mean? And if you're not really laying them in, I think Jake and Wardlow did a very good job, trying to work a shoot fight, but still, you could tell, the cooperation and everything that was going on there. But overall, I thought it looked really well. It was presented well. And it had you wondering for a second prior to the bell if these guys were really going to be shooting with each other or not. And then obviously it became clear that they weren't. But, and Jake Hager did tap Wardlow out or submit him, I believe, choked him out, and Aubrey called for the bell. So that was the right call there because Jake has this, fighting experience already, and he's a trained fighter, and it wouldn't have made much sense for Wardlow to go over here, but Wardlow still put up a good fight. I've been a big fan of his ever since he debuted in that cage match with Cody. I thought he did a phenomenal job, and I wondered how a guy like this slipped through WWE's fingers. He seems to be incredibly capable and is probably only going to get better. Pretty good outing here, even like the way he gave the finger as he was passing out. So, he was defiant. Brock Lesnar, I believe, did that once, didn't he? Didn't he do that to Undertaker? Like Undertaker locked him in the Hell's Gate or something, and he just kind of flipped him off and passed out and slumped in. Wasn't like the same finish. So I kind of like that from Wardlow, that he went down fighting all the way. And I thought it was booked in such a way to where I don't think like Wardlow is going to take some huge step down on the card, or if this is some sort of a burial or anything like this. He fought his ass off, lost. And I think he can still remain a badass, intimidating monster despite this loss. And that's what you want to try to do when you book a match like that. So I think AEW was successful in that respect, but in terms of the in-ring match quality and shit, it wasn't that good to me, and I would be fine with not seeing these very often, if not never again. Just not really something I think pro wrestling wants to venture into, because it's going to be really hard to pull it off and make it good. You might have, a situation where you can, but when you're trying to basically be like a UFC fight, like complete with an octagon, I think NXT had the better idea. What is it what's theirs? The fight pit match or whatever. It's basically a cage match with a platform around the cage so they can get up there and walk around and do some pro wrestling type of shit. This resembled more of, the Lion's Den match with Owen and Shamrock from back in the day. That's just, a little bit tougher to pull off, and wasn't a huge fan, but I applaud their effort. So it's kind of a combination of where, like I said, it was great and terrible all at the same time. There was a lot about it that I kind of appreciated them having the guts to do that, but at the same time, maybe don't do that again, So, split the difference there. Another significant match on the card last night was Arn Anderson's son, Brock, who looks like he owns a landscaping company and drinks natural light beer. He made his in-ring debut last night, I believe, alongside Cody in a tag team match against Aaron Solo and QT Marshall, and they came up victorious. Brock Anderson was very impressive. He looks a lot like his dad, stupidly like his dad. I think he needs to continue to maybe get a little bulkier, stay in the gym a little bit more. I think physically he'll continue to improve and look really good. But from a physical standpoint, he just facially and the body and even the mannerisms in the ring, he's got a lot of that Arn Anderson stuff in him. And I liked what I saw. I mean, he's simple, but he's good. And I think he threw a spine buster. He had a really sick reverse DDT, near the end. I think when QT's trying to hit him with the crossroads, and he got the victory. I think he rolled up Solo for the win. Yeah, it was definitely Aaron Solo. Rolled him up with, I don't know what the name of the roll-up is called, but it's the move Shawn Michaels used to beat Triple H at SummerSlam 2002. Rolled him over, really good-looking roll-up there, 3 count, gets the win, and a big, nice, awesome debut for Arn Anderson's son. And I was a big Arn Anderson fan, so to see that kid in there looking so much like his dad, and you can see so much potential for him to, really work in Arn Anderson's style. Of course, he's going to be in the position of being a son, having to follow in his father's footsteps. And Dustin tried to do that, if you remember, when he came in as the natural. Even his promos, he was talking like Dusty. He was doing the Dusty accent when he didn't have it. He was just doing it. And, whenever you try to be a carbon copy of what your parent was or your father was, sometimes that doesn't work. So you have to be a combination of, acknowledging your family history in wrestling, but carving your own path at the same time. And hopefully Brock Anderson is able to do that, because right now he's just Arn Anderson Jr., even with the initials on his tights and all of that. So we'll see how his pro wrestling persona, his ring work, his character, if he even has one, and his overall just personality evolves as he goes here. And I'm wishing this kid all the luck in the world. He's surrounded by some pretty goddamn decent people, so I think he's going to be all right, and wish him the best. That's all I really caught of Dynamite, to be honest with you. Didn't catch really much of the rest of the show, although we did find out that Dynamite will in fact return 2 Wednesdays on June 30th. So this will be a week from this Wednesday. They'll be back, and that card is stacked to look pretty good. We've got Brian Pillman Jr. challenging Miro for the TNT title. That's awesome. And we also have Sammy Guevara taking on MJF one-on-one. That should be awesome. Those two guys have had a pretty fun Twitter beef in the past couple of days. It's been a trip to watch them interact. MJF has got a cryptocurrency out there now that's apparently doing pretty well. I'm not using any platforms where you can buy that on, but maybe I should look into it. But that should be fun, at least for, a week and a half from now when Dynamite returns. There might even be another match or two advertised for that show. That's just all I have written down here. So I apologize for AEW not giving you enough love this week. It's just been really busy, and we got a lot of other stuff to talk about. And I'm not sure what my schedule is next week. If for any reason I'm off on Friday again, we'll do another double watch-along of Smackdown and Dynamite or something like that. And then I'm really excited for Dynamite to return to Wednesdays on the 30th. That's going to be awesome. And that's going to be cool, too, for Thursday podcasts and Thursday streams going forward. We can kind of talk about the previous night's Dynamite, because what I had been doing before is waiting until Saturday to talk about that show, and it'll just be much easier to knock that out earlier on in the week and try to spread out things and instead of trying to cram a week's worth of news and results into one podcast. That's kind of my goal for the summer, is just to keep a steady stream of content instead of big concentrated chunks of content. That's kind of the goal here. Thank you for that, Nate. I already knew that. Dynamite is on Saturday next week, so they got bumped a couple of different times. I forgot about that. Thanks for reminding me about that. Yes, so next Friday, it will not be on the 25th. It'll be Saturday the 26th. And I don't think I'll be off for that. So, yeah, probably no watch-along there, but Dynamite's crazy. This channel's crazy. We'll get used to it. Anyway, let's get into last night's SmackDown, because even though it was a go-home show, normally this is a show that I wouldn't spend much time on. I would just dive right into predictions. But earlier on in the week, WWE announced on social media that for some reason, they have decided to move the Roman Reigns-Rey Mysterio Hell in a Cell match off of the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view and put it on SmackDown instead in the main event, which means Roman Reigns essentially will not be working the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, which is odd. So it led to a lot of speculation as to why that happened, what went into that decision, why are they doing this. Many of us thought whatever match they had last night on SmackDown, it would result in either a rematch or a spin-off match, or maybe something different for Roman or whatever. That really didn't happen. But when they kind of altered up the card a little bit, it looked like they wanted to add another Hell in a Cell, so they either thought 3 was too many, or they wanted, since they were losing Hell in a Cell, they wanted to add one more, so they threw Bianca and Bayley in there. Don't really know. I think likely it was because they wanted to give Lashley and McIntyre the spotlight, and they should, because Roman and Rey, I don't think would have been the main event. I think it would have gone on first, because we know Roman either goes on first or last, pretty much. So I think Roman and Rey last night would have gone on gone on first, unless WWE assumed they were going to go on last, and they felt Lashley and McIntyre was the better story there, because Lashley's, the one, Roman's made, and he's just a made man. Lashley, he's been, had a good run and stuff, but fans are tired of, the Drew stuff, and he needs a big, just solid victory to solidify him and send him into SummerSlam for hopefully, a match against Brock Lesnar or somebody major at the pay-per-view. So maybe they wanted to give these guys this main event stage here, because either way, win, lose, or draw for either guy, it should be a statement thing. If Drew does win the title, I think a lot of fans are going to be upset with that, but if he does, that should be the main event, and that should close the show. And if Lashley wins, it should be a statement for him to rule Hell in a Cell, put down McIntyre once and for all, and now he's got a shit ton even more credibility heading into SummerSlam. So it looks like they just might want to give Lashley Lashley and Drew the spotlight, I guess, and they bumped Roman and Ray to SmackDown. So that match was going to main event last night's SmackDown here. Now, earlier on in the day, it was reported, I believe PW Insider picked this up first, that Karrion Kross and Bronson Reed, Karrion Kross and Scarlett, I should say, and Bronson Reed and maybe a couple of others were at SmackDown last night to work some dark matches. Of course, there's no audience there yet, so this seems like it's a case of WWE just wanting to take a look at some maybe main roster-ready talent that's in NXT. I mean, they can do that. This is WWE. They can pluck anybody wherever they want. Kross is in the middle of a pretty dominant title run right now in NXT. I would like to see that run its course, but if they brought him up now and they liked what they saw from him and like, yeah, this guy, this character, this gimmick, the music, the presentation, this is ready for the main roster, they would be right. He is. I think LA Knight is also ready for the main roster. Bronson Reed, he's been in the business so long and he's had a lot of experience. I would think he would stick around in NXT a little while longer, but he's also very big and he can be he can be marketed that way, and he can move up as well. I worry about him on the main roster. I just do. I just really, really worry about him before they put him in some comedy angle with Otis or something, although Otis is looking like kind of a badass right now. So this is kind of interesting because we've heard of WWE really wanting to ramp up the quality of their content this summer when the fans come back going into SummerSlam. Then we got the draft at the end of the summer, apparently, that's going to, send us into the fall with a bunch of these, maybe roster changes and a couple of NXT call-ups, and Kross is somebody that I could see moving up, because I think NXT can survive with or without him. I think he's really good in his role there, and I think he's a star in the making. But at the same time, he's got a portion of the NXT audience too that's kind of like turned on him a little bit, and he's the presentation is so over the top with him that he just seems ready-made for main roster. So I'm almost okay either way with whatever they do there, but if they bring him up to the main roster, at least put him in a situation to where he's going head-to-head with somebody to where you're like, oh my God, that's going to be good. If he comes out there and confronts Roman or a John Cena or a Bobby Lashley or a Drew McIntyre or a Brock Lesnar in the future, as long as they continue to, push him as a monster, that could be pretty interesting. And, the pairing and everything with Scarlett just seems like it's tailor-made for Raw or SmackDown or something like that. So we'll see what that materializes into, if anything, if this is just WWE trying to get an idea of what they're going to do. And I commend them for that, because it's one of the things I've been begging them to do the most of, is just think, start making fucking plans, get some ideas in your head. So if they're trying to say, if they're trying to get ideas for what to do heading into the late summer and fall for when the fans are here, to make sure they have compelling storylines, matchups, shit like that, I guess I can appreciate that they're taking a look at some people. Should we spice up the roster a little bit? I've always maintained that moving talent around or adding talent isn't really the problem, because talent isn't the issue in WWE, it's the storytelling. But, this tells me that they are at least thinking a little bit ahead, and that's somewhat promising, I guess, provided they don't completely gut NXT of some of their best talent. Another person that might be heading back to WWE real soon is the Beckster. Mama Becky Lynch has been spotted at the Performance Center working out in the ring a little bit. I think she's been working with Indy Hartwell to prepare for an in-ring return. Now, this is not really a surprise. We all expected Becky back. We were talking Becky in January, like fresh off of giving birth to that kid. We're like, could she come in there, make a Rumble appearance? Could she make a WrestleMania appearance? And I think WWE, she is the one person that they full on are waiting for the fans to come back. I think if fans never left, I think she would have already been back by now, but I think this is one where you want to wait. So she's preparing, she's training, she's getting ready. All she needs now is fans, and all WWE needs to do now is decide when they want to spring her on us. Are they going to do that at Money in the Bank, very first night, have her come out there and enter Money in the Bank and win it? Or do we wait a little bit closer to SummerSlam and bring her back to set up a big program there with one of the champions, maybe Charlotte if she wins the belt tomorrow, maybe an Asuka, maybe a Bayley, somebody that you think a bigger star that might not have much to do or whatever, they could be setting that up. But her just coming in and winning Money in the Bank would be pretty awesome, and what a pop if they do the deal, because she has already done that in the Royal Rumble. Remember when she came in the year she won it? She replaced somebody, right? Came out in the aisleway and they let her go in, and whoever got hurt, was it Nia Jax? I forgot. What if she did the same thing in the Money in the Bank? Same thing. Or maybe she attacked somebody, ultimate opportunist edge style. Knock somebody out, entered the match. Or, if it's no fault of her own and she just shows up in front of Adam Pearce and Sonya as they're looking down at a laid out Money in the Bank participant, and she goes, I'll do it. And they go, okay, go, you're in there. And she comes out and wins it. Crowd goes nuts. That would be fun. So we'll see when we see Becky back, but I'm really excited to get her back. And I'm guessing she'll be on Smackdown. I mean, she's probably going to be wherever Seth Rollins is. And he's currently on Smackdown. So if he's moved to Raw, I think she'll stay on Raw. Or if she stays on Raw, he'll be moved to Raw, I should say. But they might move her to SmackDown. They might be on separate shows until the draft, but I'll bet you anything, when that draft rolls around, Becky and Seth will be on the same show. Carmella and Corey Graves will be on the same show. Jimmy and Naomi, or Jay and Naomi, whichever one's married to her, will be on the same show. Shit like that. So once they hit the road again for Raws and SmackDowns. So we'll see what they do, but I'm really excited to get Becky back. So anyway, the show opens up last night with Rey and Roman Reigns cutting a promo, hyping up their main event match later on. And Roman, in his soft monotone voice, tells Rey that if you thought what I did to your son last week was PG, then I'm going to do something X-rated to you or whatever. Basically just says he's going to kill Rey Mysterio later on. And we got a big tag team match as well. Apollo Crews and Commander Aziz defeating Kevin Owens and Big E. We had Sami Zayn on commentary for this. He was hilariously obnoxious as always. He starts messing with Kevin Owens a little bit when Owens is the legal man on the outside of the ring. The referee continues the count. And as he gets to about the 8 count, Owens is so distracted with Sami, he nearly gets counted out, so he has to dive back in the ring. But when he dives back in the ring, he eats a Nigerian nail. He goes down, and they continue the attack on him after that. And backstage, Sami Zayn, as he's walking away, as Aziz and Apollo continue the attack on Owens, Sami's laughing. He goes back to Gorilla. Kayla Braxton is there. They've got the replay up on the video screen, and he's laughing and pointing at Kevin Owens. Look at him. Look. He's trying to get the oxygen in, and he can't go in. Ha, 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 ha. And he just starts laughing. Sami Zayn is my favorite fucking person in this company. He cracks me up. The way he's like, look, he's trying to get the oxygen, and it won't go in. Something about that line cracked me the hell up. So he's making fun of Owens. He thinks this whole thing is hilarious. Later on, Owens recovers. He storms backstage to Adam Pearce. I think he's with Sonya. Can't remember. And he demands a match with Sami Zayn at Hell in the Cell, and Adam Pearce agrees. The only thing I'm bummed out about here is that this match isn't inside the cell. I think this should be inside the cell more than Bianca and Bayley should be, because these two guys have got a decade of history or more, and their rivalry has just spanned multiple years in WWE. With both guys exchanging roles as heels and baby faces. They feuded on both Raw and SmackDown twice each, I think. So their rivalry is one that's probably going to be looked back on pretty fondly in the future, 5-10 years from now, when we remember back to, when these guys put each other into the Hall of Fame type of thing, we're going to look back at their times together and all the fun shit they did. It's been hugely entertaining. So I wish this was kind of in the cell, but as of right now, it's not. I would like to see them pull a fast one tomorrow and not just make it an impromptu Hell in the Cell. Like Kevin Owens can come out there and Sami gets in the ring, and then Owens can say, oh, by the way, I went and had a little conversation with Sonya and Adam, and they agreed to put this match in the cell, and then the cell lowers and Sami's freaking out. This would only further his conspiracy angle, that he's trying to push with WWE and stuff. That would be really good ammunition for him if Kevin Owens is able to secretly kind of get this thing turned into a match tomorrow. Don't think that's going to happen, but would be cool if it did. So that is a match that's now added to tomorrow's card. Owens versus Sami Zayn. Baron Corbin puts his crown on the line next, the battle for the crown. They've been doing this stupid shit for weeks with Shinsuke Nakamura and Baron Corbin, with Rick Boogs playing the guitar and distracting Corbin, and then he gets pinned, and Shinsuke stole the crown, and he can't retrieve it. He can't win it back, so now they're going to have an actual match for it. But this is the King of the Ring, so it's kind of weird. This is like, it's almost conflating the King of the Ring and the King of Wrestling, because back in the day, Harley, Haku, Savage, Duggan, they would occasionally put the crown on the line. Actually, Savage may never have, but Duggan did. That's how Savage won it. He beat Duggan for it. Duggan beat Haku, I think, for the crown. And, of course, Harley Race got injured, and then Haku took over for him. So the crown used to be something like the $1 Million Belt that was occasionally defended. But then it's different from the King of the Ring. So it's not like, you know, it's just, I can't believe I'm even saying this out loud. But Corbin's crown, his king crown, if it's going to be defended, should be a fake crown. Because if it's a real King of the Ring trophy, it doesn't matter if somebody beats you for the trophy. That doesn't make them the King of the Ring because you won the fucking tournament. You know what I mean? It's like somebody challenging the Andre the Giant Battle Royal winner for their trophy. It's stupid. So it didn't really make any sense. But, I mean, I guess the King of the Ring and the King of Wrestling are now kind of one and the same, and it's not two different things the way it was. I mean, we saw the two different things come head-to-head at the very first King of the Ring ever when Bret Hart won the King of the Ring and then Jerry the King Lawler confronted him. So these should be two separate entities, but are kind of conflated into one here. And then they had the actual match last night for the crown, and Shinsuke beat Baron Corbin. Pretty good match. Beat him with the Kinshasa, which was good because it was a straight-up win. There was no Rick Boogs playing the guitar and a distraction roll-up, which is what I thought they were going to do. So the fact that they actually had a match and a finish here was good, and now Shinsuke is the new king, but he's not the King of the Ring, so I don't know. And by the way, it sounds like they might be bringing back the King of the Ring. And on Thursday, I pitched an idea of Xavier Woods, who's been very vocal about wanting to win the King of the Ring. Maybe Xavier Woods turning heel, because it seems like on Raw, MVP's trying to convince Kofi to turn. Maybe they're trying to throw us off. Maybe it's a ruse, like Ted DiBiase courting Lex Luger and then aligning with Tatanka instead. Maybe that's what MVP's doing here. Maybe he's going to help Xavier, especially if for any reason it comes down to a Kofi and Xavier final, and the two brothers get together. Good spirited contest. Good luck, my friend. May the best man win. It's not going to affect our friendship at all. We're going to go out there and wrestle for the crown, and it's going to be a match of respect. And then Xavier turns heel and cheats or fucks Kofi over and aligns with MVP. I don't know, but that might be something fun to do if they are going to bring back the actual King of the Ring. But if they do, what happens to this current crown? If you have another King of the Ring tournament and somebody else wins that, now you got two kings running around here. I don't know. After that, we had Bianca Belair and Bayley promo. Bianca out there looking effortlessly adorable as always. She's got the belt. She's calling out Bayley. Bayley doesn't show up right away. Then she comes out. There's a brawl. They start beating the shit out of each other on the outside of the ring. They get back in the ring. Bayley hits a running knee. Boom, hits the rose plant on Bianca to lay her out. Picks up the title, holds up the title. All of the video screens around the Thunderdome are all pictures of Bayley holding up the title. So you know what that tells me? She ain't winning the title tomorrow. So she got the best of Bianca in that situation. A newly shaved Otis and Chad Gable have seemed to have dropped the comedy act. They're a little bit more of a barbaric kind of heel team now. They beat the absolute shit out of Angelo Dawkins last night. Hit him with their finisher, threw him into the steps, and just spent a good 5 minutes just beating the crap out of him. Otis is suddenly a little bit more intimidating looking. You know, he just looks like a comedy figure just from his appearance. He looks like the King Kong Bundy and LJN rubber figure from the 80s. It's exactly what he looks like. And he's and everything that he's been doing has been so funny, and the Mandy Rose stuff last year. Now they're trying to push him as, this serious person to be scared of, and it's kind of working for me. Like, I actually think he's a little bit intimidating, and he's got that just death stare that looks so good. And so he's somebody that I didn't think could maybe go in this direction, and I think has done well with it so far. So we'll see whatever happens with Otis and Gable, if anything is even going to come out of this team or not. But so far with this kind of new attitude, I actually like it, and I didn't think I would. We go backstage to the little ring in the chairs with a Cesaro, or for a Cesaro interview. He is interrupted by Seth Rollins. They exchange words. They talk about their match at Hell in a Cell. And Cesaro winds up just pushing Seth over in the director's chair, and he falls, and he gets mad and whatever. So that match is tomorrow. A little bit up in the air who I'm going to predict for that, but I think I finally did decide because there's a lot of matches tomorrow that really do feel like a crapshoot. I don't know how well I'm going to do in my predictions, but I think I might have an idea who's going to win that one. And that leaves us with the main event, Roman Reigns defending the Universal title against Rey Mysterio in the Hell in a Cell in the main event of SmackDown last night. Jey Uso has been missing from the broadcast all night long. Roman and Jimmy actually came together a little bit backstage. They actually were a little bit more cordial to each other. Roman even acknowledging how important family is and how much not only that he needs Jey, but we need Jey. And begged Jimmy to find him and go figure out where he is and what's going on with him. And he was absent for the entire show. So that's an interesting little tidbit here that I kind of liked because it keeps you guessing. And I think WWE has done a really good job of giving the Usos separate identities. You know, they said it in their promo. Jey Uso in one of his, really great promos that he cut a couple months back. He goes, my whole career, you know what I get asked? Which one are you? You know, that's, and that's true. And that's a really good attitude for him to have, to really go on and go out there and make a name for himself and not just be always associated with his brother and vice versa. So now, I went from these two guys being in the company for 10 years and still not being able to totally tell them apart, even though they were like my favorite team in the company, to now I definitely know which one is which. I can tell by their attitude. I can tell by their look. I can tell by their voice. And that has all been accomplished in only a couple of months, which just goes to show you how much you can accomplish when you actually put some time and effort into developing people's personalities and personas. It can be done. So that, I think, has been achieved really well. And I now, for the first time really in my entire life, have a distinguishable difference in my head of Jey and Jimmy Uso. And this whole storyline has been a big reason for that. And it's benefited both. So we'll see where that winds up. Jimmy, I guess he kind of, he's got Roman's back tonight. He agrees to that. Roman goes out for the match against Rey. It's a very good match. It's not as barbaric and brutal as what Roman was trying to describe. It was basically just Roman Reigns, asserting himself and just beating Rey up at will was pretty much kind of the story here, even though Rey, was putting up a good fight. He got he was wearing out Roman with a chair, 619s and drop kicks and, and all this stuff, trying to, mount some sort of a comeback on Roman. But Roman in the end is always just too big and too strong. One big spot where he basically just like launches Rey into the side of the cage, but nothing that I'd consider barbaric or brutal. It's not like he flew off the top of the cage. And another big reason why these Hell in the Cell matches don't feel so barbaric as WWE pretends them to be is because they look like a goddamn toy. I am so unbelievably against that red cell. It's ever since they debuted it. Was who had it first? Did they make it red because of the Fiend? Is that why it turned red? And we thought that maybe it was just a one-time thing, but then they kept the red cell. I understand red and hell go together and all of that, but it doesn't look good. It hurts my eyes to watch it. And to me, this is just a classic example of WWE overdoing something that doesn't need to be messed with. It's not broke. Don't fix it. The Hell in the Cell matches have already gotten a little bit ridiculous because the structure of the cell itself has changed. If you look from that very first one with Shawn and Taker to what it is now, the old ones, were sagging and bending and people were falling through them and crashing through them, and they were, just sketchy and just janky as fuck. And but that was like part of their style. That was part of their charm. The old War Games cage was like that. The old Memphis cage was like that. Is they just kind of looked a little shoddy. And that added to the flavor. WWE's got to then they reinforce everything to death. They double the height of the goddamn thing, even when it was still silver. And then it was already looking like a ridiculous cell. I already stopped liking it, 10 years ago or whenever they started making it super ridiculous. But then when they painted it red and turned it into a Mattel toy, it's not Hell in the Cell. It's heck in a toy. That's all it is. And I just hate the cell matches. Just don't like them anymore. They do nothing for me. And sometimes I think a lot of the talent goes through unnecessary physical punishment for a match that at the end of the day doesn't mean jack shit. The last Hell in the Cell match I can really, truly remember loving and saying that was a classic was the Usos and New Day. I thought that was phenomenal. It was so good with the tag teams and all those guys in there like that. So since then, It's just, they've been hit or miss, and they haven't been that great just because of how out of control the structure is. I'm not a fan of that Elimination Chamber spaceship either. That thing, it looks like it's ready to launch into fucking orbit. It's so ridiculous and so elaborate with the lighting shows and the lasers and the pods and all that stuff. I'm like, God damn. Simple is better. I guess that's because I'm old school, but these cells just infuriate me, and I think it takes away from the talent. A lot of these guys I'd like to see. I'd like to see Roman and Ray in a 1998 Hell in a Cell match. That's what I want to see, not a 2021 version. So it was good. Ray and Roman worked their asses off, of course. They told a great story, like Ray always does. Ray is so good at telling stories. He's made me believe that his fucking eye grew back, because apparently it did. And I thought it was nice of WWE to not... to number one, not have Ray lose on 619, which is today, by the way, or Father's Day. So he was, I guess, scheduled to take this beating tomorrow on Father's Day. So I guess it's nice they got it out of the way early. So that was nice of Ray. I think Roman even wished him Happy Father's Day after the match. The finish saw Roman Reigns finally locking in his guillotine. Ray passes out. Match is over. Roman wins via submission. And then after the match, he chokes out Ray some more and just leaves his carcass laying there as he celebrates with the title. Roman's a badass. Loving me some Roman. Can't wait to see what he does going into SummerSlam now. If it's a match with John Cena, if it's a match with Brock, if it's a match with The Rock, or whatever they do. I think right now Cena seems like the most likely out of those three. I think if Brock comes back, they might put him with Lashley first. And if that is the case, I really want to see where that's going to land Paul Heyman. Does he pick one, or does he represent both? Either way, there's a story there, that's for sure. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But last night, they got that match over early, and Roman is still the champ, which I would have predicted him to win tomorrow anyway. So worked out. Okay, thank you for that, Victor. You think the red was before The Fiend. I can't remember when the first time they debuted the red one, but it's basically sucked ever since. Oh, it ain't heck in a cell, Nate. It's heck in a toy. It's heck in a Mattel toy. Yeah, it's Happy 619 Day. Everybody go wish Rey Mysterio a happy 619. Tell him Good Mike Work sent you. He lives right here in San Diego. Maybe we'll have him over one day for some hot dogs and a live stream. We'll see. We'll ask him. Anyway, let's start predicting Hell in a Cell predictions, and then I want to wrap things up with my review on the Chyna documentary on Vice, because it was very disturbing, emotional, maybe angry a couple times with a couple of the just complete dirt bags that were involved in that documentary of hers from 2015, and a few other things that we'll get into as it relates to Chyna. But before we do that, let's predict tomorrow's Hell in the Cell. I'll tell you what, man, I was confident as hell for NXT in your house. All those are pretty predictable. We got all the predictions perfect. I don't know. There's a chance here I'm going to get nothing right. And there's a couple of these matches where I literally, I'm not ashamed to admit, I don't know who's going to win. They could go either way with a couple of these here. And I think we might even, for example, the Alexa Bliss and Shayna Baszler match, I'm not even sure if we're going to get a finish there. It might be a disqualification. It might be Alexa Bliss getting intentionally disqualified just to fuck with Shayna some more. It could be Shayna running away and getting counted out. It could be the match not even happening because somebody disappears or bursts into flames or something like that. So who knows what the hell we're going to even have with that match tomorrow. So I don't know how to predict that. And a couple of these title matches are a little bit odd too. So let's get into it. We'll start with the match that was added to Hell in a Cell last night on Smackdown. Kevin Owens taking on Sami Zayn. This one's a tough one to pick because I feel like Kevin Owens has been winning these matches, and I would love to see Sami Zayn pick up a victory because there's nobody in the company really that entertains me more than him. Maybe Matt Riddle. Ooh, put them together. Huh. Can we get them together in some backstage segments? Can you just give me 3 hours of Matt Riddle and Sami Zayn talking to each other? That's all I need. Anyway. Side thought there. Based on the matches they've had already, I feel like Sami is due a victory here, but if Kevin Owens wins, and who's eaten a couple of Nigerian nails in the past couple of weeks and been getting one-upped by Sami a lot in non-match situations, this is a match that I feel could go either way. But I'm enjoying Sami Zayn pushing this conspiracy, talking about this documentary that's going to be released. It's still in production, he said, I think last night when he was on commentary. So despite the fact that I like all of that, I'm going to pick Owens, although I really think Sami could pick up the win here. But let's pick Kevin Owens tomorrow. Owens gets the victory over Sami Zayn. And like I said earlier, I would love to see a situation where, maybe Kevin Owens comes out to the ring and says, hey, I talked to Adam Pearce, and the match between you and I is now going to be inside the Hell in a Cell. And then it lowers, and then he beats Sami Zayn. That would just add fuel to Sami Zayn's conspiracy of everybody in WWE's out to get him and shit like that. So let's pick Owens there. Cesaro versus Seth Rollins. Of course, they had their little interview last night, and Cesaro pushed Seth Rollins over in the director's chair. Cesaro won their encounter, right? Was it Mania? When the fuck did they face each other? But Cesaro won that match. Seth Rollins, I would think, is probably going to be factored into something somewhat substantial for SummerSlam, whether he's in a title program, maybe he works with Edge, who's going to be coming back soon. That's the rumors anyway. And Seth, I think, has done a pretty good job of putting Cesaro over so far. And Seth Rollins is still Seth Rollins, multi-time world champion. I think he's got to win. As much as I love Cesaro, I want them to book this in a way to where Seth Rollins gets the victory, but Cesaro's push or at least significant spot on the card continues to where he's still maybe a contender or a top contender or an IC title contender or something to where he's still kind of in the mix. So let's just have Seth do something dastardly to cheat. Maybe Seth Rollins, who's always seemed to have a little bit of a backup plan with him when he's a heel. He's had various guys with him, backing him up like Buddy Murphy and others. Maybe Seth debuts a new sidekick, I should say, not side piece, sidekick, or some muscle bodyguard, something like that. Although we got a couple bodyguards in the company too already. And maybe that person helps him defeat Cesaro, or maybe whoever the person is Cesaro feuds with next interferes here. Or maybe Seth just stomps him. I don't know. But he's been stomping Cesaro a lot. So I think the only way Seth wins here is to try to keep Cesaro somewhat strong in the process. But at the end of the day, I'm going to go Seth Rollins over Cesaro. Alexa Bliss taking on Shayna Baszler. Like I said, I don't even know what to think here. They could do a deal where this isn't even an actual match. The only way I think Shayna Baszler wins is in an intentional loss by Alexa Bliss. I don't think Shayna is going to tap out or pin Alexa Bliss. I don't think. So if Alexa wins, I think she's going to do something to Shayna Baszler that's going to get her disqualified or counted out. Or maybe they're wrestling in the ring, lights go out, they come back on, and Alexa is all the way up at the top of the ramp, just disappeared right out of Shayna's arms, and she's laughing demonically, and then there's a Lily thing that happens in the ring or something. Maybe she's not in timeout anymore. And she does something, freaks out Shayna Baszler. But while all this is going on, Alexa gets counted out. The referee rings the bell. Shayna wins by count out or disqualification, but gets spooked, or they continue the deal with her and Alexa Bliss. So I'm actually going to predict Shayna Baszler winning via some form other than pinfall or submission. That's what I think. But I also think that a non-finish is likely as well, But if a non-finish was going to happen, you'd think they'd do that on Raw or whatever. If this match is on pay-per-view, actually, now that I think about it, it probably should be Bliss winning. Because if they were going to do a DQ or something, that's just something I'd save for Raw and not put this nonsense on the actual pay-per-view itself. Okay, let's mid. I don't do this often. Let's mid predictions. Let's switch. I'm going to pick Alexa Bliss. Don't know how or whatever. Let's pick Bliss to get the victory here, and this could maybe be a continuation of maybe Shayna Baszler changing or something happening with her. I don't know. I'm not confident about that at all, but let's go Little Miss Bliss for the win. Here's one that I'm not having a hard time predicting. SmackDown Women's title on the line, Bianca Belair defending against Bayley. This match is now inside a Hell in a Cell. This was announced last night, so we dropped one Hell in a Cell match, gained another, and based on what we saw last night in that segment, I mean, how can Bayley do what she did to Bianca and then beat her the next night or beat her tomorrow for the title as well? Ain't going to happen. Bianca Belair and Bayley has not really been setting the world on fire, but I have enjoyed Bianca and Bayley more than Rhea and Charlotte. And Bianca, we love her. She had a great victory over Sasha Banks at WrestleMania in a very, very good match. And I would actually be down to see that rematch at SummerSlam. I'd be perfectly happy with Bianca, Sasha 2 at SummerSlam. I actually hope they go in that direction. So if Sasha can come back, I think she's got a program with Bianca waiting. Maybe Sasha can go heel this time. Maybe there's a different outcome at SummerSlam. Maybe maybe the Money in the Bank winner cashes in somewhere in there. Maybe Becky comes out and confronts the winner. I don't know. I'm going to be there. Should be pretty fun to see. But I think Bianca absolutely keeps that title going into SummerSlam. So she's going to defeat Bayley tomorrow in the Hell in the Cell. And what I hope is going to be kind of a show-stealing match, because I like both of these women a lot, especially Bayley, especially both of them. But and Bayley's so hilarious and great, and this could be, a memorable match for both. So I think both have been gifted almost an opportunity to almost have a show-stealing match here, because the other women's title match I give very little of a shit about. And these two I like a lot better, and I just think they could steal the show. I think they can. Hope they will. I hope they do. The other women's title is on the line as well. Rhea Ripley defending the Raw women's title against Charlotte Flair. This one makes me nervous as well. I feel like with SummerSlam on the horizon, WWE wanting the belt on Charlotte seems like their line of thinking. But how shitty would that be to Rhea Ripley, Because not only did she lose her opportunity last year, to wrestle at WrestleMania in front of fans, and then she lost to Charlotte, and then it took her forever to kind of get back on track. She did return this year, did defeat Asuka at WrestleMania in front of fans, but it still wasn't the same. And she's had her entire run, because the only show in front of fans was WrestleMania. So again, Rhea's entire run has been not in front of fans. So I think Ripley should hold the title at least until fans come back, at least till where they can kind of maybe gauge a reaction from them to her. I still think you could set her up for something big at SummerSlam if you want to keep the title on her until then. If Charlotte doesn't win tomorrow, I don't know what they do with Charlotte after that. I honestly don't know. But in the end, I would keep the belt on Rhea Ripley, but that means we're going to have no title changes tomorrow. So I really think Charlotte might beat Rhea Ripley. I think it would be shitty if she did, only because the storyline sucks. The issue between them sucks. I'm not a Charlotte Flair hater. I actually defend Charlotte. I like Charlotte, but I have zero interest in this issue with her and Rhea Ripley, and I shouldn't. Ripley and Charlotte are both badasses, but for some reason I liked it the first time. When they were building up, of course, the match had to be in the empty arena. I think if they were able to follow through with that without the obstacle of COVID, it would have been a huge success. But now, much like Charlotte and Asuka was, that felt like a big-time match at WrestleMania when Charlotte broke her streak. But all of that magic now is completely gone here, which makes me worried that WWE will put the belt back on Charlotte while they have the opportunity to do that inside the Thunderdome, where the fans aren't going to fucking throw shit in the ring like the NWO just formed. So with that being said, that's going to be my one go out on a limb, even though I completely disagree with this decision. If they do it, I'm going to predict Charlotte Flair, not because I want it, but because I think they might do it. I think it's the wrong thing to do. I'd keep the belt on Rhea Ripley here, but we're predicting Charlotte Flair tomorrow. See what happens. WWE title on the line. Bobby Lashley defending the title, what is now obviously going to be the main event, against Drew McIntyre in a Hell in the Cell match. Drew is Drew, but Lashley, they've been trying to make him to take the belt off of him now, put it back on Drew going into SummerSlam, when you've got a couple of really ready-made dream matches potentially there with Lashley if you just simply keep the title on him. I don't know how you don't want to capitalize on those. So for those reasons alone, I got to go Lashley here. I'm going Bobby Lashley to retain. I think McIntyre can survive this loss, maybe even go heel, switch brands, something like that, and find his way back to a championship down the road. But with Lashley, if you keep the belt on him, you got a potential for Brock. You got a potential crossover with Roman. You got a potential rematch with John Cena 14 years after they wrestled at the Great American Bash for the title, or whatever it was back in 2007. So you've got some options there for Lashley if you keep the belt on him, where, Drew has had a nice, healthy time on top. Despite most of it being with no fans, he still has been on top, and I would just keep Lashley rolling here. So we're going Lashley tomorrow. So those are the only 6 matches I have, unless they've added something that I'm not aware of. But just to recap, we're going to go Kevin Owens over Sami Zayn, Seth Rollins over Cesaro, Little Miss Bliss defeating Shayna Baszler, Bianca Belair successfully retaining the SmackDown Women's title against Bayley in the Hell in the Cell, Charlotte winning the Raw Women's title from Rhea Ripley somehow. Like I said, I disagree with that decision, but these are predictions, and I want to try to get them right, so I'm just going to predict Charlotte Flair for fun. And Lashley retaining the WWE title over Drew McIntyre in the Hell in a Cell. No idea what kind of finish they're going to do there. If it's going to be a finish where he kind of wins somehow, but Drew stays strong. Maybe McIntyre does something like Wardlow did last night and just give him the finger as he passes out. Something like that. Maybe Lashley has a little bit of help. Maybe Drew's next challenger gets involved. I don't know how. It's in a cell, so you'd have to find your way in there somehow. Maybe The Fiend returns. I think they're saving The Fiend for when fans come back, but we have some missing people as well who you could bring in to kickstart a new program in order to get out of another one. So you could do that with Drew and Lashley as well. Don't know. But picking Lashley tomorrow. Got to keep the belt on him. I don't know why I'm so thirsty today. I have no idea. But anyway. There we go. Let me know your predictions down there as well. What do you think? Do you think I got it right? Do you think which ones do I have wrong? Am I smart? Am I stupid? What do you think? And we'll be up here tomorrow night after the show to talk about all of it. Before we get into the Chyna doc, I'll cruise over here to the chat and read a couple of these questions, and I'll give you guys my overall and knock out a super chat or two. Give you my thoughts on the Chyna documentary, and then I got to get out of here and head to work for another fun one at the restaurant. All right, Nikita, I got you from earlier on. Thank you for that, man. Chris Ludecki is in the house. Appreciate the $5 from you. This was sent a while back. If Becky returns at Money in the Bank and replaces someone who gets injured, that will feel like just how she entered the 2019 Royal Rumble after Lana got taken out. Thank you for that, Chris. We did talk about that earlier. You must have been typing that as I was talking. It was Lana that got hurt. I think I said Nia Jax. Yeah, that was my same thought process there, is it would be a really good callback to that Royal Rumble if she came in and entered the Money in the Bank much the same way. And that got an incredible reaction from the audience. As soon as Lana went down, they were like, Becky, and when she came out there, like the crowd went fucking nuts. We were all ready for it. She could do the same thing and absolutely blow the roof off of Money in the Bank. That would be incredible. Roger Rubio, good to see you, man. Welcome back. Appreciate the $5 from you. First time here in the chat. Always enjoy the show on the download. Appreciate that, man. I'm sorry about the show not being available lately for download. We are going to be picking that up, but for a while there, I wasn't sure about the future of the Saturday podcast and how the format was going to be, and so things have kind of been just in a little bit of limbo while I get stuff figured out. But I always appreciate everybody that does like to check me out on those other platforms. You'll see me on there again. I'll be back in the website. Still works. It's all there. But we've been kind of revamping some stuff a little bit behind the scenes. By the way, smash that thumbs up button for me if you don't mind, for those of you who are here. Nikita, you could be right about the red cell maybe being part of the exclusive Raw brand when it was just that. But yeah, I don't know why they even decided to make it red. Whatever the decision was, it was dumb. Well, I hope they don't put it on Smackdown. There's going to be a blue cell. Actually, that might look cool. It might kind of resemble the old blue bar steel cage from back in the day. And the cage matches now are just so ridiculous. I mean, I know it's NXT and I think it's AEW as well. Like now the cages they're already set up and now they just kind of fold in, like it's just crazy. Back in the day, they'd have to set up the cage for each individual match. Well, I guess WCW was lowering the cage in like the early 90s and stuff, but it's just so different now the way the cages are just put together. It's in WWE, it just seemed like it was 4 flat fences going around the ring post with nothing, in the middle. It wasn't even really a cage. It was just 4 pieces, on each side, and it just kind of makes a cage, and it moves, it wobbles. It's a mess. Not a fan of modern day anything these days. I don't know who we're talking about there in the chat. Feels like if it's anything argumentative, it's probably Charlotte. Oh, thank you for the follow, Wrestling Jeebus. Good account. Yeah, and we need Sheamus to hold the United States title until the 1st of 2022 so he can drop to Keith Lee. That's a long time, Jose. Title runs these days don't last that long. Sheamus doesn't seem like he's quite ready to go. They're kind of holding off on the Ricochet Humberto Carrillo stuff, right? Didn't they do like a double count out or something? Number 1 contenders match. So they're trying to kill time there until Sheamus' honker is all nice and healed and he can be back to defend that title. But hopefully Sheamus is doing well because that was a gnarly shot he took to his nose, man. My God, just destroyed his face. we'll see. We might see him back on Monday night doing something with those guys. They might finally get that match done and set it up for Raw. And we'll start probably after this week, I guess, Monday and stuff. We'll start getting Money in the Bank qualifier matches. Do you think they'll start that this Monday, or we'll get another week? Probably start right away, I would think. He's got less than a month until Money in the Bank. Less than a month, y'all, of the Thunderdome. Think about that. Less than a month. How awesome. How awesome. Anyway, let's get into the Rise and Fall of Chyna documentary that aired on Vice Thursday night. I got a chance to watch this late last night, and a lot of you guys were sending me your comments on this, on Thursday night and Friday and yesterday, what you thought on it. And I knew it was going to be, quite the watch, probably somewhat emotional and extremely sad. There's very little about Chyna's story that's happy, and it's just the whole thing was just so depressing to watch, and you just feel for her and the situations that she was in and that she got herself in, and she was never able to successfully battle all of these just horrible demons that they had. But I was assuming that the documentary was going to be basically like a lost Dark Side of the Ring episode. I thought it was going to be more along the lines of what those episodes are like. And, because when they announced the season 3 episode listing, Chyna wasn't on there. So I kind of thought this was just going to be an episode like that. But this had a different, kind of different take on it and a different twist that I wasn't expecting. Basically what they did is they took all of the footage from the documentary that they were filming for her back in 2015 and 16 at the time of her death that never was completed. They basically took all of this, told the story of that, showed all of the footage of everything they recorded with Chyna during that time, and rotated that in and out with her life story throughout the 2 hours. And I was like, okay, wow, I wasn't expecting to see a lot of this. A lot of that Chyna footage, I had seen bits and pieces of, interviews and, and her talking and things like that. But, this was hard to watch because you could see Chyna dying right before your eyes. And that was the hardest part about this to watch, is to see all that stuff from 2015 and 2016, to see how truly lost she still was. And the people that she had around her, quite frankly, were complete pieces of shit. Those 3 ass bags that were making this, I think it was called the Reconstruction of Chyna. They didn't give a shit about her, especially that manager of hers, Anthony, very pushy. It seemed to be like he's not a psychiatrist. He's not a psychologist. He had no business telling Chyna what she should do to cope, or, and it was Dr. Drew that was on the show as well. They kind of had to say that, like, when it comes to addicts, the recovery and stuff like that, it's about here and now. When you start dragging up the past and stuff, all that can do is add, to your desire to, do more drugs or to be depressed or give you more mental anguish and anxiety. And she never had anybody, which sucks. And they told that story, very clearly in this documentary, that she really lacked that support system. And she lacked people that truly cared about her. She lacked family. She lacked true, real friends. Some of this was people truly doing her wrong, and a lot of it was her own doing. Even though I have a lot of sympathy for Chyna and I feel horrible what happened to her, you are still, regardless of how bad you have it, you're still responsible for your own actions. And it's how you handle these adversities that make you who you are. And there was, you guys who've been following me for a long time, I used to give Chyna a very hard time, because every time we would see her on the internet or in the media or TMZ or doing an interview, she seemed like a complete mess. Just emotionally drug addicted, not there, embarrassing, tough to watch. And it upset me the same way it did Hulk Hogan. Back in the day, I used to rant on Hulk Hogan back in like 2011 and 2012. And a lot of that I guess that rage or anger I had towards Hogan and Chyna was really out of disappointment, because I liked both. I was a big Chyna fan. I was going to the shows when Chyna was a big part of the show. I saw her in person. I met her. I was in the building when she won the Intercontinental title. She has done things that are very memorable to me, and I always appreciated Chyna when she came in right off the bat like that, shaking Marlena to death, and she was so over and so big and so bad, and as a woman, she was believable, and I was a Chyna fan throughout her entire pretty much run. Same thing with Hulk Hogan. Even though he wasn't my favorite, even as a kid, he wasn't my favorite. I appreciated his legacy, appreciated his Babe Ruth name. And then when he started that reality show, Hogan's Knows Best, his kids went to shit. He's fucking other people's wives on camera, probably doing a drugs, and he's just acting like a complete ass. I was offended. I was like, dude, you had the greatest career in wrestling. You're a household name. You should be sitting back and enjoying the name and career that you've made for yourself. But instead, you're acting like, Charlie Sheen, and it's ridiculous, and you should be ashamed of yourself. And I think I was just angry at the situation. I was just frustrated, a parent is disappointed in their kid when they do something really fucking dumb, and it was just really upset me because these are people that I admired, and I'm watching them be such pieces of shit. And it was infuriating, and now years later when we get the whole story and we truly see what Chyna went through, she just had a really rough time. She was battling life from the very beginning as a kid, the way they would comment on her appearance, from the way she looked and all of that. This poor woman just had to deal with a lifetime of shit, and it got the better of her. And as you watch the documentary here, I am in full belief that Chyna would be here right now, right here today, still alive, possibly even recovered, maybe even living in Diamond Dallas Page's house for a little bit, if she would have had the proper people around her to get her help. Because the people that I think are very instrumental in her demise are these three assholes that were doing this documentary. Disgusting what I was seeing from some of them. And they were openly admitting this, on the documentary, which was just even more disturbing. And it's a combination. I'm not blaming anybody for Chyna's death or her hardships. Yes, there was people that played a role, but at the same time, like I said, you are responsible for your own actions, and Chyna was no saint. She did a whole lot of stuff that was fucked up, wrong, and, straight up mean-spirited, accusing X-Pac of rape, accusing Triple H of physically assaulting her, none of which happened. All fueled by drugs and alcohol and addiction. And it was sad. It was so fucking sad. Some of the people interviewed for this, one of the key names on here was Mick Foley. Mick Foley has always loved Chyna. He always spoke highly of her. He always wanted the best for her. He always felt bad what she had to deal with and what she had to go through. They showed footage of them meeting at a convention or an autograph signing like in 2015, and Chyna was crying. It's so good to see you. Foley loved her, and I wish Foley, could have been there more for her, as a friend in her time of need and stuff. You can almost kind of feel the regret in his voice too, that he wasn't able to do anything for her or do more. Vince Russo, also a part of this. Vince Russo and her were also pretty tight. I think they did some streams and some podcasts together as well, where she talked about a lot of stuff. And Russo's always been in very heavy defense of Chyna. Billy Gunn was on here as well, spoke very highly of Chyna. They were together in DX for a time. X-Pac was on here as well. And X-Pac's always acknowledged his problems and his demons and his drug issues, and how that mixed with Chyna, and how all that was just not a good mix and not a good relationship. Her sister, her wrestler friend that she trained to become a wrestler with, I think at Kowalski School, or no, she met her, I think after training, met her in North Carolina, and I didn't write her name down, and also her mother were also interviewed for this. Now, I was not aware of the fact that she was estranged from her mom and sister for so long. I think she was estranged from her sister since she was dating X-Pac, like in 2003. So, they went 12 years without speaking by the time Chyna died. And her mother, she hadn't seen since he was a teenager. And her mother did not sound like a very good person either. I don't know what, they didn't elaborate too much on that, but for them not to see each other for 30 years, and for her mom she never saw Chyna ever again after a teenager. Even up until her death, never saw her one last time. The last time she ever laid eyes on her own daughter was before Chyna was 20 years old. That's crazy. I think she said 16, something like that. Her mom claims that Chyna's father stabbed her with a butcher knife one time, and Chyna witnessed that. But for some reason, when Chyna became a teenager and got old enough, she left her mom and went and lived with her dad. Apparently had a pretty good relationship with her dad. They even showed footage of her visiting the grave, and a lot of this stuff was pushed on by this Anthony, what's his name? This Anthony Anzaldo guy, which is her manager, and he was the one kind of spearheading this, or he's trying to, really take control of the documentary, but there was a producer and a director involved as well. So basically, they would show bits and pieces of Chyna beginning this documentary journey, them picking her up at the airport after she'd been in Japan for like 4 years in 2015, the initial pickup and the drive in the car, and a couple of autograph signings and some interviews on the streets, and in her nice Redondo Beach condo, which was beautiful, right on the ocean. sunset every night right in front of your face. Extremely peaceful place to probably be in terms of an indoor place, but still not a good overall environment for her to be in, because she was all by herself and she was alone, and the people around her did not care about her. Clearly, they cared about themselves and no one else. So in between the footage of that, they would cut back to Chyna's life and her career and her upbringing and her entrance into wrestling. And it did a really good story of, showing her entire journey all the way up until the end. And basically her death was filmed. And that was the most disturbing thing about that. Like I said, she was going to be starting to film this documentary called The Reconstruction of Chyna. And there were 3 ass bags that she was dealing with mostly. Number 1, her manager, Anthony Alzado, the producer, Rob Patillo, and director Eric Angra. Now, Eric Angra was the one that pissed me off the most. This seems to be like an admitted heroin addict. The way he was sitting, I don't want to get too mad here. The way he was sitting in the chair during the documentary, I wanted to reach through the screen and strangle him and slap him across his face. I swear to Jesus, if I ever run into this guy on the street, I'm going to make him cry. He looked like a complete weirdo. He looked like an awkward, uncooperative teenager being forced to go to therapy by his parents. He was just sitting there like this all the time, and he's like, yeah, when I was interviewing her, I was high on heroin, yeah. And we used to do pills together and blah, blah, blah. Basically, like I contributed to this. I didn't try to help her at all. If anything, I was doing pills and I was doing drugs too, and I knew she was. So we kind of bonded over that, and then we started partying together, and I'm like, these are not the people that she needs to be around. And this guy just had an extra weird vibe to me. I just hated the way he looked, the way he was sitting there. He just reminded me of like just an asshole, uncooperative, lazy fucking teenager that, is just an asshole. And it just pissed me off. His whole demeanor, and he didn't come off as a person that felt any remorse at all. Didn't seem to give a shit. Her manager claimed to care about her, but he didn't. He was more interested in getting the shot and getting the right moments, kind of pushing and forcing Chyna to go visit her dad's grave, knowing what kind of emotions that's probably going to bring up in an already emotionally unstable person. They were exploiting this for the purposes of this documentary. They had no intention or no real true care about Chyna bettering herself, and this to be a redemption story and a resurrection story and a reconstruction story for her to come out on the other side, like a Jake or like a Scott Hall or some of these guys. I think, that was what they claimed the intent here was, but the intent never was there because they knew that she was a mess. They could tell. They even said there the first couple of days, the signs were there that Chyna still had these problems, that she was still taking drugs, kind of lying about it, being vague, that sort of thing, all the classic signs that an addict will have. And instead of getting her the help that she needed and trying to convince her to get help, they almost ignored it and just continued on with the documentary to make sure they got the footage that they needed. They all came off like huge assholes here, especially at the end when they found her body and it was filmed. Unreal. So anyway, in between all that nonsense. And by the way, the one guy too, Rob Patillo, I guess her and him did become friends. He seemed like and even interviewed in the documentary, he seemed like he did truly care about her. He lived with her for a while. They did yoga and meditation on the beach, and seemed like he tried to help her, but still at the end of the day, I'm not quite sure that was the best relationship for her either. Because even though she seemed happy at times, I just don't think the association with any of these guys was doing her any favors. But Rob seemed to be the one that had the most genuine love for her and maybe the less sadistic intentions, where Anthony was just in it for himself, and that weird, fidgety, awkward Eric fucker didn't care about anybody, and I don't think still doesn't care about anybody. Fuck that guy. So they talk about her childhood, lots of really cool photos, from her growing up, and childhood photos, school photos, going to dances, and getting bigger and working out, and, all the way up until training to wrestling with Killer Kowalski, and, becoming a wrestler and working on the indie level, trying to, hammer out her promo skills and, that sort of thing. So she was, kind of on the rise there. And then she talked about how she was approached and met Triple H and Shawn Michaels. They both fell in love with her look right away. Both have told this story before, how they saw her and they were trying to figure out something for Triple H to do, because if you remember around that time, he kind of had this revolving door of managers. He was kind of with Mr. Perfect for a day and a half. Then he had Mr. Hughes. He was doing a lot of these different things. Then he had the women with him and stuff. They never were able to find a niche for him. And when they were to bring in Chyna as his heater or his muscle, talk about heat. You know, anytime a man stands behind a woman, it's automatically kind of like a heel heat magnet type of thing. But when you're allowing this woman to fight for you, that's even better. And it was, it was perfect right from the start. But she talked about how Vince was apprehensive at first and they had to kind of convince him. And once she got there, she was immediately impressive. And then she had her run with DX all the way into her, winning the IC title and a lot of the plastic surgery that she had done, which, they've said before, they kind of said here that, Chyna wanted to look more feminine, and I'm sure maybe she did, because she had that real boxy face. Even her, like a lot of the people in the family just had that. So she, wanted to have a little bit more of a feminine look, but you can't convince me it wasn't WWE really pushing for that. I think it was them, the ones that was maybe kind of leaning on her to get that done, not forcing her or not making her, but, highly encouraging it, let's just say. And I remember the first time she came out in like 99, right before the Royal Rumble, and she had that work done. I'm like, oh my God, what happened to her? But then as she kind of like grew into it, she became a very beautiful woman, and she had, she was a big star. She looked great. All the way up until the Playboy thing, she got that big Playboy spread and made more money doing that than she had in 5 years in wrestling, and a ton of success. She was on MTV. She was on, talk shows. She was on Howard Stern more than once when she had everything together and she was stable and successful and sober. And then later on when she was an absolute, complete and total train wreck and they paraded her out there and let her speak anyway. And that's another thing that always annoyed me about Howard Stern. They like to bring these people on. They want them as fucked up as possible. They probably saw Chyna completely fucked up on drugs in the green room and didn't say, you can't come on the show today. They said, oh, you have to come on the show today. We want this. And we've seen the clips, and her makeup's a mess, and she's crying, and it's just so awful. It's just so awful what wound up happening to her. But they would get into the affair, Triple H's affair with Stephanie, when they started the on-screen storyline and all of that, and how she kind of had a feeling about it, even confronted Triple H about it, and he denied it. And then she found a love letter that basically confirmed it, and that led to the split between the two. And then around about a year later, her contract was coming up. She wanted more money. She felt like she was on the same level of an Austin and Rock, and she made a good point. I don't believe she deserved Austin and Rock money. But when it came to like the poster people of WWE, she was always on there. And she was right about that. So she was kind of demanding more money, but due to the situation, number one, WWE didn't want to pay her that, and the awkwardness of the relationship with Stephanie and Triple H now, they parted ways. They didn't renew her contract, and of course, the rest is history. She did go to New Japan, had a pretty awesome match with Masa Chono, who was interviewed on this, as well as a couple of people from Japan, an MMA fighter, and her old boyfriend. Her ex-boyfriend was actually on here as well, who she was with prior to Triple H. So they talked about her run in New Japan, but it was short because she became unreliable and they had to let her go. And that's when she got with X-Pac, and they talked about that whole situation. They talked about the sex tape they made in China entitled One Night in China, and the volatile relationship with him, and the fact that they were both on an enormous amount of drugs, and it just became this really ugly, just toxic relationship that ended the relationship with Chyna and her sister. They became estranged during that relationship, and they never spoke again, or they never saw each other again. And that's when she was making some of the more disturbing appearances, like I said, on Howard Stern, other appearances in the media where she wasn't all there and she was a complete mess. She was a cast member on that VH1 show, The Surreal Life. She had some contact with Dr. Drew, about joining the Celebrity Rehab show, and a really disturbing video of her and Anthony with Dr. Drew on speakerphone, lying to him about the drugs that she's taking, with Anthony saying, let's not tell him about this and let's not tell him about that. This is unbelievable. This is unbelievable to me that this guy is right there, doing nothing to help this person that he claims to care about. It's just unreal that it was like that. And I guess, near the end of the decade there, she got a little bit better. felt like she had nobody, felt she had to leave. She went back to Japan, stayed there for like 4 years and was a school teacher, felt like she was getting her life kind of back together. And then in 2015 was when she returned and began this documentary nonsense. And she even did the deal where they showed up at WWE headquarters because they want to know why she wouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. They talked about the Triple H and Stone Cold podcast, which I've always been annoyed with and always hated Triple H's response. And this is one situation where everybody in this documentary, who I think is a piece of shit, was right. Even Vince Russo. He goes, how are you going to say that? Worry about your kids Googling her name when you have felons and people accused of murder in the WWE Hall of Fame right now. Sunny got out of prison like 3 days ago. She's in the WWE Hall of Fame. Snuka murdered somebody. Hogan did God knows what. Had a sex tape of his own, if I'm not mistaken. And it was a flimsy bullshit excuse by Triple H that he should have known better to say. And it was wrong. But at the same time, Chyna does have her own problems. And Chyna is responsible for a lot of her own actions at the same time. Even in 2015 when all this was going on, that's when Roddy Piper died. And she approached Triple H at Roddy's funeral. This is according to X-Pac. Said she bum rushed him and hugged him and profusely apologized for everything. This is after she'd already accused him of assault, accused X-Pac of rape, things like that. So she was not in a good place in this 2015 time, and she was not behaving well. And a lot of this is her fault, and a lot of this is the fault of the people that were with her that did nothing to help her. Filming her is an emotional wreck. I think just days before her death was tough to watch. Sitting on the floor, various places in her house. She's clearly on pills because she's slurring her words. And she's like, and you could tell. And I guess at the end, she nearly reconciled with her mom, but Anthony wanted to film it, and the mom was like, I'm not comfortable with that. He was all about getting the shot. They said he was angry by this. And then they basically finish. Oh, did I shut my mic off? They basically close with the day that she was found, and it was being filmed. They were filming Anthony showing up to the house, walking in the door, and they show all the way up until the door opening. Apparently, when he walked around the corner, she's laying there dead in her bed. They basically show you the inside of her house and the living room, and then, that was it. And then probably the most disturbing part about this was, I guess, that director Eric was bragging about having the footage of finding her. I don't know where that footage is. I hope it never surfaces. I hope it was destroyed. And the fact that there is footage of, entering her house and finding her dead is extremely concerning and disturbing to me a lot, especially that seems like these three ass bags were trying to figure out ways to immediately capitalize off that. Her mom claims that after her death, she had requested some of her ashes, and she said, sprinkle 3/4 in the ocean and send me a 1/4. And apparently Anthony sprinkled a 1/2 in the Pacific Ocean, sent her a 1/4, and kept a 1/4 for himself, and did a whole tribute to Chyna with a bedazzled urn. This guy's a piece of garbage. Absolute piece of garbage. And he was on here. I couldn't believe he was interviewed. He's talking like he didn't do anything wrong. Like I said, I firmly believe, and I know there's been a lot of debate about that. Do we blame everybody else, or does Chyna, shoulder a little bit of this blame? Of course she does. It's her life. It's her shit to get together. It's not anybody else's job to get it together. She's got to do the work. But at the same time, she needs a better support system. And if she would have had the support system many others had, like Mick Foley said, if she had the support system that I had, if she had the support system that any of us here in the chat had, things might have been different for her. If DDP would have been able to get his hands on her, with Jake and Diamond Out and Scott Hall, and bring them all in there and get her into DDP yoga. I could have met her on the Jericho Cruise last year instead of Jake and Scott Hall, who I met both. I could have met Jake, Scott, and Chyna, but we never got that. And she eventually succumbed. And her friend is just like, why didn't anybody help her? And it sounded like they were really on the verge of about to get her the help, but they were too little, too late. I know even their demeanor, they even seemed not surprised that she died. It's a shame. Absolute shame. So it was a really good documentary, but one that I probably won't watch again because it's just, it's gross. Made me feel dirty after watching it. It made me feel incredibly sad for Chyna. And as a wrestling fan, the tragedy, and the loss that we all suffered there. So it could have been better for her, and it was just a crummy ending for her. And even the night that I did the video, the day she died, and the very first thing that I said in the video that year, I said I knew it was going to end this way for her. I just knew it. I think I even said as much in commentaries and stuff. Bummer. But anyway, I hate to end this podcast on a bad note, but I literally have 2 minutes to get out of here, and I got to head to work. So I thank you guys for being here for today. Let me know all your comments on the Chyna documentary in the comments if you're watching this after the fact. Let me just make sure I didn't miss any supers. If I did, please tweet me and tell me that I'm an asshole. I apologize for that, and I'll make sure I get to them tomorrow. Thanks again for being here. Don't forget to join us tomorrow night, immediately following Hell in a Cell, right here on the channel. We'll be doing a full show review. You guys take care. Have a great rest of your Saturday,